with all the COVID-related issues, we are trying to keep everything as normal as we can, and hopefully we are trying to be a little bit entertaining while you're housebound or social distancing at least. So it's not that we don't think this is an important subject, it's just we are not experts in that subject. So we're going to do another subject that we're not experts in, and we're going to try to keep this to cars and racing. So appreciate you guys listening to our podcast. Thank you.
Bye.
Or hello.
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 Hello. How you doing?
How you doing?
From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. Our Captain Marvel, Net Flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuck. And our Batman, master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission? To fight injustice. Share what is right and wrong. To get you out of your house and come out racing with them. And serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes and Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes and Training Podcast. I'm going to be your host for this episode, and my name is Bill. Who do we have?
I'm Vicky.
I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Alan.
And I'm frustrated. Anyway,
We have a guest today, don't we, Bill?
we do have a guest.
We got,
Yeah.
oh my God, somebody decided that they were so bored of looking at their family that they want to talk to us. Wow.
Yeah.
We are.
You know
moving
what?
up.
I heard one of our guests calls it when they come on our podcast, they're social distancing because they know they're talking to nobody. So, Vicky hates those jokes. Whatever. It's how we roll. So with us, we have a gentleman who is a known racer. Ben Dawson said hello and has raced with him several times. He also works at one of the stores that I really should have a line of credit with, but the hole keeps getting deeper and deeper. He works over at Bimmerworld. He races at least one BMW. We see one right behind him right now. Not that that helps on an audio podcast, but whatever. We're giving you some background. And we'd like to welcome Phil Wurz to the podcast. Welcome, Phil.
Thanks for having me.
So,
Awesome.
Phil, you got the short straw. You came on the podcast. Everybody else said, Phil should do this. So,
Yeah, they stuck me with it. I'm stuck with you guys now.
Nice.
that's a downgrade for you and an upgrade for us. So,
That's right. All the BMW people will be very happy to hear this.
that's
Yes.
right. It's almost like a world of Bimmers.
Mm-hmm.
See what I did there? That's right. That's right.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, there you go. So, Phil, I did a horrible introduction. Can you give us a little bit of background about you and your, professional life, racing life, family life, whatever you feel like telling?
Me, I work at Bimmerworld, as you have already mentioned. I've been there since about 2007. So I guess going on 13 years now. It's started in the warehouse there and kind of worked my way up to now I am the sales manager there. Done a little bit of everything, but yeah, we do it all for BMWs. For those that are not familiar with Bimmerworld, we started in performance, but have also a lot of background in OEM and all kinds of other replacement parts and whatnot too.
Nice. So you're selling parts and you're putting them on. You have a shop there as well?
Yeah, we do. We have a not really a service shop, but it is
Okay.
a race team. So we actually race in 2 series professionally. We have 3 M4 GT4s there, 2 race in IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge,
Wow.
and 1 races in SRO GT4 America. And we also have a couple in 240 IRs that race in that series as well.
Oh, very nice.
Wow. So you race in 2 series professionally, and we race in 2 series poorly. Okay. We're almost the same.
Yeah, exactly.
So where is Bimmerworld located?
We are in Southwest Virginia in a little town called Dublin.
Oh, yeah.
To locate it, it'd be a little bit south of Roanoke, close to Virginia Tech and Blacksburg area.
Yep.
Uh-huh. How did Bimmerworld come to be?
James Clay, the owner, he started it back in '97, and he started it by slinging used parts. That was his thing, and it was his funding to go racing, and it sort of just grew and snowballed from there.
So why BMWs? Is it because you love the vehicle, or?
That was his deal. I think he had an E30 M3, if I remember the story correctly, that he took to the track and started racing that car, and that was really what started it.
Mhm.
The
So
only
how
thing
do you
missing
guys-
from that story is he got a free E30 BMW M3 because the first one's always free when you start down this hole.
So how do you guys best serve your clients?
We best serve them by the customer service experience, the value that we can supply there. Not many companies are racing in 2 Series professionally and have the race experience that we do at a grassroots level as well. So when a customer calls in and wants to know how to get involved, what to do, how do I build a car to a certain class, what are the pros and cons to certain things, and we can help customers best by using our failures and experiences to tell them to not do those things.
Wow, we are so hooking up here, Phil. I'm just.
Sounds
You know
like our
what?
podcast in a
Speaking
It's
nutshell.
like we're going down the same rails, you know.
oh, that's
Different
awesome.
sides of the tracks, though.
So you're working on BMWs, and how did we get into racing? What happened? What did you trip and fall one day? You hit your head? I mean, like, talk to me.
Me personally, or James, the owner, or the company?
We
You
can do
tell
both.
me. You felt. I'm clueless, so you help me out.
James, I don't totally know where he started in, but him racing as a hobby is what grew into the professional side for Bimmerworld, and that has just continued to grow for him. Me personally, I've always been into BMWs. My first car was a 318 Ti, and I thought that all 138 crank horsepower 4-cylinder. I thought I was running a bat out of hell back in the day, and then started realizing I wanted a little bit more power, and that grew and grew, and then I actually ended up working at Bimmerworld as a college job in the warehouse. That was my start there, and that quickly got me out of the go fast on the street, and I kind of want to do this on the track deal.
Right.
So
Very nice, very
when
nice.
you guys build the cars or recommend to build the cars, do you improve upon, or do you create within the BMW? You pretty much race stock.
Depends on the class you're racing for. I race Champ Car, I race Spec E30, and the Champ Car, you're really limited on what you can do. So it's kind of maximizing whatever you can do for stock. You're really you typically find a weak point of a chassis. Racing is obviously brutal on these things, so you're always going to find the weak spot and reinforce things, metal fatigues, reinforce spots that need that. And, like I said, it depends on the class.
Mm-hmm. Also, are there any issues with the BMW that you find that people keep coming to you for, like, say, a hub that won't come off on the rear side? I mean, are there any areas that you feel that people come to you more so for
Besides us.
within the BMW?
Well, there's not likely suspects, right? So we have an E36. Let's just say. What if we had to do some wheel bearings? We're going to do front and back. It's going to take a weekend, right? Like maybe 2 hours on a Saturday, 2 hours on a Sunday.
That's what you told me when we started.
Yeah, that's what you plan for, but we all know how stuff goes. Never goes according to plan.
No.
Very nice.
Especially on these older cars. They're all rusted together and seized up and have a grand old time.
Frozen and broken bolts are real.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's a thing.
So do you build cars for other clients on the side, or do you just pretty much parts?
We do build cars. The hot thing lately has been Spec E46. That's really what we've been building mostly. The race team is pretty busy running in 2 Series. It can be tough during the race season to get any work done on customer cars. So we don't do much between, I'd say, March or April till October, November. So but in that off season, we'll typically knock out a car or two for a customer build.
Okay.
Nice.
And we'll do some maintenance stuff. If someone comes in and needs some rod bearings or something like that, we might knock that out. But we're not a shop that'll be doing oil changes and things like that.
Now, do you normally do a lot of used parts, or do you use?
No used parts, all new.
What, used parts? What do you like? What, you can't put used parts. These are race cars. What are you doing?
Sorry,
Have you been in the race car before?
I know I have a donor car
listen,
sitting there.
You've seen us
that I've
put
been
some used
pulling
parts in,
from.
and I apologize. But we try to put new parts in.
Reliability's key.
They're new to us.
Okay, guys, I'll let you guys take the floor.
There's other people here? I didn't realize that. My
I
goodness.
wanted to get. I needed to know these things.
I think the problem is she wants to vent about her E36 rear wheel bearing.
She's got some hang-ups on that wheel bearing, it sounds like.
She does.
I did.
The problem is that she
It
just
never
hasn't had
came
her,
off.
her weekly shipment of Corona in yet. So we had her a couple cases a week, and then usually it's okay. You know, so it's, that and she's totally dying on this rear wheel bearing. It's
No,
pretty
it's done.
hilarious.
It's gone.
I was gonna say, is it done now? Are we all good?
Yeah.
Is it?
But yeah, we're no.
Yeah, no, it's good. We took the old parts from the donor car, right?
Yeah.
The 4-door, whatever the heck it is, and then we just put it on the race car, and it's all good. It's all good. No
Yeah.
alignment. Never. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Not yet. Not yet.
And then we're all good. We just,
Yeah.
You're kind of there.
So
Right
so
now I'm
here
trying to go ahead.
so here's the quick story. The first one, the passenger side, came off like 6-7 hits with the slide hammer. No problem. Alan says, okay, just do the same thing on the other side. Walks out the door.
No,
never to be
time
seen.
out. Once we got the wheels off, we put the car up, we took the wheels off, and I was like, oh, you have to use a slap hammer? I was like, I need to go get a drink of water. I'm thirsty.
It's true.
Yeah,
didn't
and
even
he
stay
never
for that.
came back.
Never
I
came
didn't
back.
no.
So
Yeah.
so we're sitting there and we're like, oh, okay, that wasn't too bad. So we go over to the driver's side, and I believe it was, just counting the time when the hammer was going back and forth, 18 hours of slide hammer. Still
Bill's,
never.
Bill's-
Listen,
Bill's
she
a
knows how to bang.
completionist.
Okay, if anyone can bang it out, Vicky's got it. You know,
Bill's a completionist, and he wasn't going
she
to
was
give up on
banging.
this
She
thing.
put some more weight into that thing. She,
Yeah.
Not that we
she
didn't
put
have a
her ass-
press.
everything.
Yeah, well, not that we didn't have a press that was already in the shop, but that. But,
Well, no, you
know,
had to watch out because the press was right there. Like it was
Right,
literally
right.
like if you
So-
followed
so-
through and it came, you're hitting the press.
So we took it down to a shop, and they're like, "Oh, this thing is like really mushroomed in there."
Fubar,
issue.
yeah.
So we gave it back to Bill, and he says, "Well, you know,
I'll do it."
I'll talk to my friend. I'll do it." And we put it on the press, and our friend said, "Listen, just put it on the press, put the press on, and just
leave it there.
Just leave it there for a while and see if it just loosens up over the time." Well, no, Bill is just cranking away on that
No,
sucker.
no. We didn't
Oh,
get
yes,
to the
you
part.
were.
We didn't get to the part where I left it. See, I was still on my way up when I was just about to stop, and the arm just went bing.
Yeah,
So-
broke the arm. So
so
now we had to go get 2 parts off the
Oh,
other car.
I've been there. I have been there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, Phil, please don't indict yourself quite that far. The use and operation of said press was completely not at all what you would expect someone to do.
Oh, it's
I-
what's expected of us, though.
Yeah, so he was supporting the trailing arm
Yeah.
while trying to press the axle out of the hub,
Yes.
and
It
wonders
worked.
why the trailing arm broke. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Mine
It's like
did
he's
too.
like pumping ice cream right there, you know.
Almost home.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's all done.
So I'm guessing you
right
had to replace the axle too.
Yeah.
Well, we
I-
have a new axle and we have a bunch of parts, but in the meantime, we have four axles.
now. Yeah, I read,
Wait, how do you pronounce that? What? Axles. Axles.
Yeah.
Those are
Not
four
what
axles.
you call me. It's what goes in the
No,
car.
okay. Well, there was 4 of us. That's how I was like, wait, did he just? We're all okay. Good. Yeah, we have a bunch of parts. We just put the other one in it so that we could calm some people because some of us were losing their mind about like the wheel bearing and stuff. They were going crazy. So we
The one
had
who
to
talks like the
just
devil.
put it back in so you could seem like you could roll it. And then didn't I drove it from one garage door to the other. We just
Yeah.
rolled it from one bay to the
Yeah.
other.
Mhm.
Just so everyone would be happy.
it's fine.
And
It's fine.
Hey,
It's fine.
hey, let's pretend this one's about Phil, though.
Okay, sorry.
No.
All good. I'm enjoying it.
There you go. We're working on it.
He's sharing the pain. As long as
Yeah,
it's not
that's
his,
right.
he's much happier.
Yeah.
Okay, so Phil, where did you get your start in racing?
My start came 2013. Atlanta Motor Sports Park was my first race in an E36 Champ car.
Nice.
And I hadn't been on track since 2010, which was actually my only DE I had done. And so I was scared to death, to be honest.
Really?
And I remember getting out there. I was first in the car, getting out there and being behind a Miata and like tucked in behind it for about, I don't know, 6-7 laps. Like, I don't know what I'm doing out here. This is crazy. And then it all of a sudden just clicked. And then it was all fine and fun. And I was just having fun shredding it
Really?
and hooked ever since.
Yeah. So you were kind of like having your oh crap moment on the on the track in the beginning, much like all of us.
That's right. That's right.
Oh my goodness.
So how do you choose your cars?
That depends on, gosh, I guess what the personal preference is for what you're trying to gain. You know, I've got a Spec E30 behind me, and the reason I chose that car was for the competitive class.
In Champ car.
This I
E30.
race in Spec E30 in NASA.
Okay. Sorry.
And the reason I chose this car was a relatively low barrier to entry of cost and super solid fields, at least where I am. You know, fields may not be solid everywhere, but, you know, at VIR out here, there's pretty much a minimum of 20 cars racing, which in a sprint class is pretty solid, a lot of times 30. And not the most powerful car, but I didn't really mind that. I wanted competitive racing, not necessarily power. But other guys, they may want to tinker with a car and go all out and not really have a budget in mind. And that guy might be a GTS4 or a ST3 or two kind of car, which is going to, you know, can rack up into the six figures pretty quick. If you're talking endurance, I'm looking at reliability as a big factor, and I'm going to look at the classes and see what's going to be competitive, what's going to be able to put my best foot forward to run towards the front of the field.
Right.
So imagine there are people out there racing junky cars, crap boxes, not the nice stuff you have. Why is it those BMWs keep dominating all over lemons? What's the story? Why do they just keep going and going? Like what can you do?
You know, they're pretty reliable. When you replace the parts and keep maintenance up on those things, they're reliable and they're pretty quick. You put the right set of drivers in there and those things are going to go. You know,
it's a problem for us.
Yeah.
We got the car.
Drivers of the car, Bill.
It's not the car, as everybody knows.
So also drivers that will take care of the car. You know, not all drivers will take care of the car.
There's Alan.
Yeah.
I mean,
Alan.
Wait, hold on. Now, if anyone's allowed to do a little abuse on these cars, it's going to be the guy that always fixes them. All right, I get a little bit.
Hey,
I don't
that's
try
me
to beat
too.
him up.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I don't try to beat him up, but I mean, you know, those wheel bearings were fine when I brought it back in.
You came off with a square wheel.
your wheel
Yeah,
looked like
well.
a clover leaf, and the
No, I
bearing
mean,
was dead.
It had 6 sides to it. 6
Yeah.
sides.
Okay. All right.
Anyway,
Sorry. Anyway.
it's only been 6 months, Phil. You know, we're almost over it.
I get it.
So what about your street car? Do you have a street car?
I do not have a street car anymore. I traded all my fun cars in for a tow vehicle and a race car.
Wisely done.
So that was my deal. My wife, though, who races with me, actually she races in champ car as well.
Excellent.
She's got a 318 Ti. Funny, that was my first car. She found one and we got that, and I've got a motor swap in that car to an S50, and that's her fun track car.
Nice.
So
tell us about the tow vehicle.
Well, I've got one that's a project, and my main one is a 96 F350 Power Stroke 7.3. That's my baby.
Okay, yeah.
That's a
Obviously,
big one.
7.3 is the way to go. Yeah. How many back wheels?
It's a dually.
Of course. What
Yeah,
else would you
got
do?
to.
It's
Absolutely.
hippie. It's got that hippie.
Nice. What about how many front doors though?
2.
All right. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I wish it was 4,
I know.
but it's all
I
right.
gotcha.
They got pricey these days.
Yeah.
It is a little nuts. Yes.
If you find one without rust, those things are expensive.
Yeah. All right.
This is
So
true.
how many 100,000 miles in that 7.3?
255.
That's not
Just-
bad. Not bad.
just getting warmed
any,
up.
Any injectors? Any chips? Were we running stock?
No, running stock.
What? Oh.
Yeah, running stock.
All right.
It's
Just
not
keep
even
Someone's got to
chill.
keep running, right?
Exactly.
There's enough power anyway. So I mean, so talk to us about the trailer. Fill us in. Open trailer, closed trailer, 24.
It's a open, and I will borrow trailers from work for enclosed if I've got to. But I'm working on a project of a school bus.
Those are awesomely bad.
So
projects.
I'm converting the school bus into the back half being a car hauler and the front half being a living area.
Very nice. So what chassis do you have? Do you have a chassis?
What, for the bus?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an international.
Nice. So it's a diesel in the front.
Yeah, it's a front engine.
Excellent.
Front engine flat nose.
All right.
Flat nose. Ooh.
Flat nose. Got to get as much space as possible. Get this thing as long as possible.
All right. Nice.
Like one step
So
away from
to
parking
ramp
family.
in, are you gonna How are you? What's your configuration for what?
Oh man, that's been the common question I've got, and I have gone back and forth with various things of folding ramps and some sort of folding door. I think it's going to be a dual element ramp, probably
Gotcha. Yeah.
16 to 20 feet. It's going to be long.
Yeah. I know there's a couple crews that run them in Lemons. I think they did Horse Beaters and somebody else.
Yeah, if you want to see what not to do, we've got a couple examples of what not to do.
Yeah. Or at least measurements, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think their whole either it lifts up and then they have it like a thing that folds out and then another ramp out of it, and then So
I'll tell you what would be nice is doing bags in the rear and just lowering the rear down. But I don't know if I'm gonna go that far.
All right.
So,
I like it.
who else races in the shop?
So James is the only one that does with pro stuff. Everyone else is other drivers, pro drivers. And he races champ car with us as well at times. But for in the shop, we've got me, my wife, she works there as well. Brandon, who does purchasing, another guy in sales, and that is it for right now. But we have.
Are you protecting us from some
got
vast
the
threat
airplanes?
near you, Phil?
Who's got the airplane? Is it you, Phil?
Is it you, Phil?
Yes.
It's loud enough. We hear it better than we hear Phil.
I'm like, quick.
I know. We all looked around like, what is that?
This is usually the spot in the E1R podcast where Mental says the sounds of freedom are interrupting our podcast.
Yes, they are. Indeed, they are.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Not your fighter
Not your
pilot.
airplane.
No, we love it.
If that's your Spec E30, I want to see your Spec 46.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's say we had someone that wanted to do some track day stuff, like HBDEs, maybe autocross, that type of thing. What would you suggest that they look at as far as getting into? Which chassis are we talking about here? You've got the E30 behind you, E36, E46. What?
Man, it depends on what they've got. If someone has like a 7 Series and is saying, hey, I want to go do something, then I'm not going to tell them to go run their 7 Series on track. I'm going to say, you should probably look at getting an E36 or something like that.
Right.
An E36 or an E46, 330 doesn't have to be an M3. That's really kind of where I think a good entry level is. E30s, I went through this whole process with this car back here building it, and it was parts are getting more expensive and harder to find. So
right.
As they get older and older, right?
Yeah, even E36s. I'm seeing stuff become no longer available for those cars. E36 M3 control arms were on back order for 9 months last year.
That's a good thing I broke that one then.
So older cars get tougher to find. So I'm probably pushing people more towards an E46 these days than E36. But those two are your good, reliable, affordable, good entry level cars. But if someone's got an E92 M3 or something, go take that to the track for sure.
What
Awesome.
would the differences be for those not fluent in BMW E's E36 to E46?
Like year range, you're saying?
Year range and, in general, I kind of have an idea what
Your general view of what they are.
In terms of how they perform differently?
Yeah, anyway, yeah. Awesome.
Really, the E36 and E46 operate pretty similarly. If you look underneath them, they have a very similar suspension setup. Both McPherson strut front ends, both have almost identical rear suspension systems, but you're going to get a little bit modern brakes, a little bit modern ABS.
On the E46, right?
On an E46, yes.
Yeah.
A little more power.
And a little bit more power, and I would say along with that probably comes a little bit more reliability along the way. So
Very nice.
Glad we chose the E36 then. Whoops.
But E36, as you see in Lemons and Champ Car, totally good and reliable. You can run those things, run the crap out of them.
Yep. So if we were to look at those, let's stay. We basically deal with entry level, low dollar type racing. Relative strengths and weaknesses for the E36, E46 chassis. Are they momentum cars, fast, high power cars? What do you think relative to the other field?
Oh man, I would have probably called an E36 a little bit of a momentum car until I until I drove the E30, and goodness gracious, the E36 has a lot more torque than those things.
As you go back, horsepower got more and more scarce.
Oh man, yeah, it got way more difficult to get the speed. They are to an extent momentum cars, but they've got enough torque to get out of the corners that you can mess something up and still be all right. Strengths of those things they are easy to drive. Anyone can hop in those things and really go and have at it and have fun. And you don't have to drive them on the ragged edge to be fast. You can drive them pretty clean and still get really fast times. The E30 behind me, you got to drive that thing pretty hard to get the speed. So the ease
some
of
of that's
driving
just
them is
a little less power, right? I mean,
Yep.
either, the suspension from the E30 to 36 to 46, it's a bigger jump from 30 to 36, but the 36 to 46 are very similar. I mean, these are high-end suspensions. These are dialed in.
Yeah, the E30 rear suspension is a little bit different, and it makes it a little bit more twitchy. So you got to drive it a little bit differently. But E36 and E46 are real similar, real similar.
So let's just say we had a car like this, and we had someone that was afraid to drive it. They thought it might be too fast. What would you say? Like, it's got ABS on it, right? It's got traction control.
Oh, if someone's saying that, I'm an instructor as well, and I would tell that guy,
Okay.
hey, we don't have to go that fast. We'll go out there and we'll feel it out. You don't always have to drive everything 10/10 all the time.
What?
Can you say that to Alan again?
What? This thing on?
Alan, turn the microphone off and the headphones on when he says this, okay? What did you say, Phil? I think you broke up a little bit. It might have been a plane. What was it?
You don't have to drive 10/10 all the time.
Oh. I gotta write that down.
Yeah, I'll get you a T-shirt if you'll stop.
I'm going to put it on your forehead. I'm going to write it on the inside of your helmet.
Yeah, but then
What
he'll
are
look in
the
the mirror and it'll
areas
be
of
like
concern?
01.
Phil, so what are the
Oh.
areas of concern?
Concern. Everyone always talks about the cooling system of these cars. So there's reliability things. We talk about the cars being reliable, but there are some reliable things that you want to address. Make sure you're up to date on the cooling system. Those things always fail on those cars, but fresh system there. There's a few reinforcement spots you need to address: rear trailing arm pockets, rear sway bars, rear shock towers, front strut towers, some of those things. But other than that, they're pretty solid. There's the dreaded money shift. I don't know if any of you have experienced that or
Yeah,
know what that is.
No.
We only do that in iRacing.
The money shift is you are pretty much loaded up in a corner and you go to shift a gear and maybe you're trying to find fifth gear or something and you end up finding third gear and you over rev the motor and you just cost yourself a lot of money.
Usually that's the FNG that does that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
New guy.
Yeah. So
The
making
red
sure
shirt.
you've got good mounts and fresh mounts and stiffer mounts in the engine and trans help alleviate that.
Awesome.
So if we were talking to a Boxster Cayman guy, well, maybe mostly Boxster guys, they would say this IMS bearing. There's this thing with the BMWs that I hear about, this Vanos thing. Is that a big deal, little deal, no deal? Just a wear part? You got to do it eventually.
It's a wear part. You'll do it eventually. It definitely is a thing, especially on E46s, I would say. It's probably more of an issue on those cars, and you really, really notice it because those are dual Vanos versus E36 or single Vanos.
Mhm.
And when they go out, you feel it on the power for sure.
Okay.
Right,
And
but it's not a terrible thing. You just do it and you're down the road. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a terrible job. It's right there.
Yep.
Yep. So,
So what would the upgrade priority areas be?
It's always suspension on these things for me. If it's a guy just getting started, I'm going to say just do track pads, fluids, make sure your car's maintained and up to date. You don't have any control arms about to fall off, and go run it and have fun. If it's a guy that has a little bit more experience and wants to go have a little bit more performance, it's going to be suspension. Getting the right platform under the car for the shocks and struts, that's the key to the foundation of the car.
what about the brakes? That's always one that we are always more concerned about stopping and turning than going 0 to 60. So
yeah, the brakes on a BMW though, on pretty much all of them, are pretty stout from the factory. You put fresh rotors, fresh pads, track pads. We use PFC 08s. That's pretty much our go-to for endurance cars. Good lines, good fluid, and let her rip.
is the let's put quotes around the word cheap, but we're talking about race cars. Is the cheap brake upgrade to go to the M package from a non-M? Is that the
typically
first step?
Typically it would be, but even on our Champ car, we still ran the stock 325 brakes on it for as long as it existed.
Nice.
May it rest in peace.
Nice.
It is no longer with us.
It is no longer with us.
Yes.
Is that by choice or by
Under the big racetrack in the sky.
It was not by choice. It was we had an incident in the March VIR South Course race.
Those are no fun.
Nope.
Ouch.
Certainly not.
No. So if you were to look at the E36, E46, the 3 Series BMW from the late 90s, early 2000s, for those non-fluent in BMWs, if you were to say, is there a type of racing that it fits or a type of racing that it doesn't fit? Because you got somebody looking to get into racing, they may have an interest in a particular type of racing. I'm thinking, it's kind of an all-arounder in my mind. Is that kind of what you see with
Gosh, it really is. I've got customers in other countries and whatnot rallying E36s. I don't see any doing circle track, but I see them doing rally, endurance, sprint.
So now Phil, I don't want you to think they aren't doing circle track with these cars. They're just not contacting such a highly reputable source.
You may be correct.
So I'm not saying they are, they aren't, but I'm pretty sure they are. They just welded themselves. They're fine. It's okay. Just hold this here. I got you.
Yeah, even drift. Guys are doing a good bit of drifting with these cars too. So they really are a solid all around.
Oh yeah, very nice. So what do you have? You don't have people come to you for that type of stuff though, but yeah, because you really have to get more steering lock usually, right? For the
yeah, people do sometimes, but that's not really our general market.
Yeah, nice, very nice.
What
yeah, because we
about
have we have our E36 race car, and we have an E46. I think it's an 01 330 that we're thinking about turning into a race car or a track day car, or just try to keep it running and not break it anymore. Yeah,
Also
anything,
good.
whatever.
I haven't broken that one yet.
Yeah, it's because we didn't use it. Its tire's flat.
Like I said, it's not broken.
I mean, it still has a flat tire though, doesn't it? Did you change the tire?
Nope, still same tire.
Yeah, no worries. It's fine.
It's ripening. So one of the things that you guys recently, I saw, I can't remember if it was a Instagram post or a Facebook post or somewhere I saw it. You guys were putting together a E46, Spec E46 build. And I was lucky enough to be one of the people who said, hey, how did you do that? So I saw this long list of all these items that were needed. And Vicky, they were free. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So long list of Spec E46 things in order to take I believe it's a 330 and convert it into a E46 for the Spec series. But I think that's got application in other series as well. I'm not sure if Champ Car would be happy with it in a 500-point range, but I think you could get a few penalty laps there. But can you kind of go over what the Spec E46 is and
Yeah, that's been a pretty big class. Probably the strongest growing class that I've seen lately. You can race that car across the board, and it fits into a T3 class in SCCA, and BMW CCA and NASA run it as Spec E46 as is. Champ would be certainly a lot of points and probably an EC car. For sure an EC car.
Right.
It does have to be a 330. It can't be a 325 or a 328. It has to be an E46 330, non-ZHP. But that car is a super capable car. It's super readily available, super common, and pretty easily affordable. What has made it somewhat popular is there were spec classes that Spec E30 was super popular. Then you went into Spec E36 and Spec 3, which were E36 classes that tried to take over a little bit of the spec class. Mm-hmm. But they didn't take off quite as well. And Spec E46 put together a formula of a really fun car to drive.
But one of the things that I see as an advantage, especially if you're just getting into it, while the Spec E46 car is very capable, it's quick, but it's not scary quick. Like, let's call it quote unquote dangerous quick. But it takes away the requirement for the person getting into it to kind of figure it out, especially if they're not fluent. It's kind of jigsaw puzzle. Do this and you're fine. Yeah.
All right. So trying to get at that. It is it took a lot of good pieces. You know, a lot of guys want to tinker with a car a little bit, and it takes a lot of pieces that allow people to tinker a little bit. And it's with a damper that's adjustable. It's got good parts on it, like you can put a good diff in it. The clutch is open, so you can put a little bit nicer clutch in it. And it makes the car pretty fast. You know, those things relatively quick. Can do a 207 at VIR, which is just pretty quick. That's E36 GTS2 close territory. Those cars are about a 205. But those are E36 M3s with aero. You know, that's so right. For these cars to move that speed, that's a fun car, and the class is growing quite a bit. So it's been pretty exciting to work with those cars.
It's got from what I see, it's got a nice balance of, you know, performance in terms of acceleration, but it also has a nice handle. It stops well. It's relatively robust in terms of surviving.
Yeah, it's a super reliable car too. You know, there are guys that are running these cars in AER as an endurance application, and they're holding up really well in that class as well.
And the class seems to be growing, so that's awesome.
Yeah, we built a couple over the winter, and it seems like we get a call pretty regularly for, hey, can you build a car? But we've been busy, so busy that we can't necessarily take all that on.
So we really want to thank you for volunteering to send one our way. So that's great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Be there next week.
No problem.
There you go.
You can have an extra week, you know, with the COVID thing. We'll go slower.
We're patient.
I can supply you with a Spec E46 in a box. That's kind of our specialty. And send it to you. I heard about people shipping
stuff in a box, but that's still different though. Oh, it's pallet. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Pallet of parts. Assemble yourself. We'll call it a kit.
This on the outside of the box, it says some assembly required.
Some assembly required.
Yeah. That's right.
So when it comes to like at the track especially, but what are the critical spares that we should definitely take for these things? Are concerned inspection areas, wear areas, consumables, or large usage rates for the vehicle? I mean, what normally happens with the BMW that we should really be aware of?
Oh, spares packages are a slippery slope. Whatever you break and need, you won't have. It's the way it goes.
Yeah.
I always start with basics of pads, rotors, a belt, some cooling hoses, and then from there you start growing into probably ignition coils, spark plugs, a radiator. The amount of times a rock can even break through mesh if you have mesh in the front grille and break through that and take a radiator out, and that's a bummer of a time. You know, typically have a spare set of wheels and tires. You know, and you can grow into, some guys will go as far as to have a spare set of shocks and a diff and clutch and things like that. But
actually, on our last podcast, somebody actually brought an entire donor car with them.
Not a bad call. Not a bad call.
Yeah.
You know,
I just want that to be registered as Vicky requesting a donor car.
I heard she said they're good to have around, Bill. I mean, those Spec E46s are good to have around. It's always nice to have one.
He said he brought 2 cars to the race.
I don't even think they expire either, so they wouldn't wear out or anything.
He said that he brought 2 to the racetrack.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, oh, you race 2 cars? He goes, no, we bring the race car and we bring a donor car, because if I have to pull an engine, we just pull it right from the donor and throw it right in the car. Like,
so Phil, if you haven't seen some of the I'm not sure what the word is I'm using for lemons. Typically, we pick cars that are cheap to get. Like on a Saturday afternoon, you just go Craigslist and you just get it, because, you know, crap cars.
I like your plan.
So now we have a part we call story times. We ask you a bunch of questions, just quick questions. So just quickly answer. So what was your first car?
A BMW 318 Ti, 1995.
Ooh.
95. Wow.
Yeah.
I was in
nice.
grad school.
And what is the one thing that no one knows about you that would surprise them?
Oh gosh. I'm scared of snakes. I don't know.
All right. Works for me.
Fair
We
enough.
won't take you to CMP.
I'm sorry. Automatic or stick?
Stick, duh. You know, I say that, but newer cars, the DCT type cars, have grown on me quite a bit.
They can do some good stuff.
Yep.
Favorite race car driver of all time?
Probably Senna.
Nice.
Okay. Front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, or does it matter to you?
Rear all day.
Ah, there you go.
All right.
All right. What was that car that got away?
Oh man. I had an E30 that I did a motor swap on, and I totally rebuilt this thing from the ground up, and it was the cleanest E30 I've ever owned. And I sold it to buy a car that had too much power. That was a piece of crap.
Aw.
And
Look, I actually
Was
think
it the
I see
P
a
word?
tear. I actually think I see a tear in his eye.
I think that's his handlebar mustache poked him.
Yeah. So, what's your dream car for the road?
I'd love an E30 M3, and I wish I would have bought one way back in the day before the price just skyrocketed like crazy. But here we are, and now they are all 50,000 plus.
Wow.
All right. What's your dream car for the track?
I'd probably love, for a fully built race car, probably an E92 M3.
Okay.
What years would those be?
09 or 08 to 13.
08 to 13. Okay.
That V8 just sounds so good on track.
Yeah.
Nice.
So what about your dream car or a race car? Your dream car for a race car to start a build from the ground up?
It'd probably still be that
Okay.
E92 M3. It'd be that or maybe an E46 M3 potentially, but probably an E92 M3.
Okay.
Nice.
So, if you could only drive and race cars from one decade in the past, what decade would it be?
Oh man. Making me think.
I was bored and I came up with new questions. So.
I like the
know.
shifters on the outside of the body, like the 20s, 30s. I don't even know. They got the like the streamliner thing and the shifters out there, and they're wearing the goggles. That's
I'll
The way
go
you drive,
90s.
all the shifters are outside.
yeah, they are. 90s, okay.
You're going 90s? Why do you go 90s?
Like what? You have a car in mind?
I don't know. E30s and E36s have a special place in my
Okay.
heart to an extent. So
Ah,
Awesome. I like it.
all right.
You could
Jeremy
probably claim
Hammond.
an E46 if you just say, well, it came
you
out.
could exactly. So you bridged 3 there.
Yeah, there you go.
Why do you have this question here? Jeremy Hammond, May, Chris, or Matt, or others? what the heck is
I don't
that?
even know what that means.
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't either. It's fine.
It's fine.
That's a fair answer. No problem.
What about a favorite car movie or a car from a movie?
You know, it's funny. You could say Fast and the Furious because that was like back in the day when I was first into cars, and it was cool, even though as terrible of a movie it is.
It's a
modern.
documentary.
Yeah. Something more modern would be. I enjoyed Ford versus Ferrari, even though the actual racing was obviously terrible, but I thought the movie was good.
I see that.
Your favorite wait a minute. Where would your ultimate road trip be from and to, and in what car?
I'll take a new M3 because it rides good and it's fun to drive. Maybe an M5 actually. I'll go new M5 so I can take the fam with me, have fun, have some power, and we're gonna take a cross country trip.
So if you have a tow vehicle in there to take care of all the possible issues along the way, would you take the V10 version?
I don't think I would.
Okay. Cool.
What car would you love to switch into that you are currently racing against, and at what racetrack?
You get to boot them out. It's yours now.
Oh, I get to boot another team. That's what the deal is.
You could steal their car.
Yep, it's yours for a race. Or it's just one that you just wanted to get behind the wheel one time.
Or maybe he's just really content with his own vehicle.
Sounds like it. Well, he works at Bimmerworld, so he's not struggling.
That's right.
Man, I'm trying to think of who. I race against all Spec E30s, or I race against. I think our car is capable against already.
It could be those
Maybe
those
the
upper.
Damn Sun Racing E46 from Champ Car as their kind of our close competition.
Nice. Okay. All right. It's our podcast, so every now and then we get to ask a very personal question for no apparent reason to anybody else, except we don't know the answer. So we've got a 2007 M240i, and I'm trying to find a way to make the rear end an LSD. Is that something you guys deal with? Because I haven't found it.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Diffs Online. He actually messaged me earlier talking about diffs for those newer cars. So I think he's working on something for those. There is an M-Performance diff available for those things from BMW, but I don't think they perform all that well.
Right.
So that's a more to come situation. But yeah, currently looking into that. That's going to be a more common thing, I think, in the future.
Yeah, because it's a lot of power for that one wheel.
Oh my gosh, we've got a 335, a Project 335 that we put new turbos on. It's an 09, it's an 09, so it's an N54 car. That thing makes 550 wheel horsepower, and when it was peg legging, it was a little bit rough. But we've got a Diffs Online diff in that thing now, and it's pretty hooked up.
Right.
So how can our fans go ahead and keep in contact with you or follow you and your team?
Like the Bimmerworld Facebook page. You can always find any of us. Go to bimmerworld.com, and our contact information is there. Reach out to us, call us. Yeah, we're here to help and guide with your BMW journey any way possible.
You know what? Two things you guys do that are exceptional. One, you tolerate me calling up and saying, "Hey, I need a whole bunch of these." You guys are like, "No problem whatsoever." And you
Oh,
keep
so
sending-
these are the guys.
these are the guys. Yeah.
These are the guys.
Yeah. You don't want to know how much this interview cost us. And then second, you often call me back saying, "Hey, you ordered this. You know you need this and this, right?" And I go, "No, but can we have some?" So that's always appreciated, especially for the relatively newbies that we tend to be.
We try. We miss it on that sometimes, but I feel like we do a pretty good job of catching it quite a bit.
You do. So far, so good. It's one of those big things where you finally clear your schedule. You're in the garage. You're knocking out this project, and you find out that you're off by like a 4-cent gasket or $4 gasket. Doesn't really matter. It just stops you cold, and you're like, another week.
Yeah,
So.
and it's cool because everyone in that place is an enthusiast about the brand, and I think that's part of why I probably stay there so long. Is it's such a cool place to work, and everyone cares about it and is passionate about it.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
So-
and go ahead.
I just have one little question that we didn't touch on, but how are you? What are you doing in the season? Since there is no season, are you
So far.
iRacing? Are you racing on the back streets? Are you test driving cars somewhere?
No, I'm not an
Working.
iRacer. I can't. I'm not as good at that as some other people. But yeah, we're being an automotive business. We're still working every day. We're still there every day. So it really hasn't slowed down for us work wise, and
Good.
still got a pretty regular schedule. The difference being that me and my wife work there, and our kid is there with us as well. So doing some homeschooling at my desk at times has been a fun change.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
It could
Well,
be
awesome.
worse. It could be home while you're at work and fixing your car for you. And fixing is in quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got that problem somewhat. So, all right. Well, we thank you, and we will continue to use you because through either lack of skill or lack of preparedness, we keep breaking things. So you guys should be able to afford many more new professional cars the way we're going. And we want to thank you and your team, and make sure to say thank you to them. They've been wonderful, and we will continue to purchase things, and unfortunately probably in volume, but that's okay.
and
We'll get there.
harass you on
Exactly.
stupid questions.
I think the
Don't ever
funniest,
hesitate to reach out.
I think the funniest thing
I'm
was
going to hold you to that.
was somebody asked me, like, how many of these do you have? And I was like, just one. so because I said we were a race team, and they're like, "Well, how many of these do you have?" I'm like, "No, just one right now. We break other cars too. Don't worry." So we can give you a laundry list of what cars we can break. So thank you, sir. Appreciate you sharing your time and helping out, and hopefully some people learned a little bit more about Bimmerworld and a lot more about how to potentially race them and maybe even successfully.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dominating with Dawson.
Ben, I've heard of apex predators. I've heard of apexes on turns. What's an apex in racing?
An apex is the geometric part of the turn that would make the best radius around the inside of the turn. So not around the outside, not completely around the inside, but coming from the outside to the inside, back to the outside, idealizing that radius. Does that make sense?
So the innermost point on your turn, if it's
yes, on that arc, if you're setting up a perfect arc from outside to inside to outside, coming around the corner, then that point is called the apex.
So been to a few HPDEs, been warned, actually was demonstrated at the NASA Great Lakes that early apexing can be bad. Why is it? Well, if you do the early apex and you're still at speed, you can rapidly run out of exit.
Right, run out of room on the way out?
Yeah, and that's usually not the best.
So did that happen to you, or did you watch somebody do it?
Oh, we did drills.
Oh, okay. So you had to go do it.
Yeah, go do it and say, what did that feel like? That felt like junk.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So we did geometric, early, and late. And then they said, which one did you like?
Did you find a prevalent predilection for one or the other?
I tend to visually want to do a crab into a geometric.
Okay. Gotcha.
So if I'm going to do something wrong, I'm going to wander a little bit early, and then I'm going to go towards geometric to maybe early apex, where I really want to stay all the way wide and then go to a late apex. Especially as the turn gets tighter, I really want to go to a late apex then. At least that's what I want to do. Now, whether I can get my body and my eyes to line up with that, it's too much riding on the road, because you can't do early apexing on the entrance ramp as much as you want to, because the lane's only so wide. So
it sounds like you have an approach that, at least in your mind as you're doing it, you sort of have a couple of hedges on the way. Like, I kind of hedge my bets, and if I have to bail out, here are my opportunities. And then you're committed. You got a full commitment point that you're stuck at, right?
Well, you got to realize most of my racing so far has been lemons, so the odds on having an open turn are already slim.
Right.
So I'm used to going off angle.
Which is one of the absolute best things about lemons. I love the concentration of traffic. You can learn so much about being a great race car driver running lemons just through the concentration of traffic.
Yeah.
I think typically when you're doing an early apex at our level, we're going to talk about trying to find the best place to apex a turn. It varies just based on the way the radius of the turn is. Some turns have an open radius, like is a parabolic turn one that would have just a constant radius all the way around, right?
Circular. I think parabolic would be they have the decreasing radius and the increasing radius. And
I shouldn't have brought that word parabolic up. I failed that class. Let's just go to just a constant radius, increasing or decreasing radius. I definitely failed that class.
That hideous decreasing radius turn that nobody likes.
Right. So if a turn has a radius that increases or it opens up, so you do your turn in point and you get to the apex, and then it opens up past that, then that's one that's usually going to have the apex is going to be sort of around to the earlier part of the corner, because the hard part is getting turned in to where the turn is tight. Right. And then once you hit the apex and the turn opens, you're going to have an earlier apex. A lot of times, if it's a decreasing radius turn, pardon my French, but one of the best examples of this is Bitch at VIR. If you're running the VIR South course where it turns off of the backstretch, that's a turn where you come in, so the radius decreases. So you're going to get your slowest point way at the back of the corner.
That's a pretty slow point.
Right. So, I mean, it's all the way around the back of the corner. So you're coming off a straightaway, and it's hard to tell how much speed to come to bleed off before you get turned in, because you're rolling at a ton of speed. So it's a big sweeper, really. A decreasing radius turn is a huge sweeper that you just have to keep slowing down for. And then so your apex is way around the back. So when you're talking about geometric reasons that you would have to take an early apex, that's the big one.
Yeah, the big one up by us is the Octopus at NJMP Thunderbolt. It just, when you think it's done, it's not done yet.
Yeah, if it's a decreasing radius, you're like, oh, I can get back on the gas. Nope, no, you can't.
No.
You don't get this if you do that, that really magnifies the effect of trying to take an apex too early. So if you try to do that on a decreasing radius corner, like, bitch, you were just off the track. You just don't have enough. That one's an extreme example, but everything's a smaller or larger version of that. My own personal driving style is I would always like to. My ideal is I'm going to try to make an early apex work, just because I'm always thinking in the mode of being in a race traffic, and if I can get my rotation and apexing done earlier than the guys around me, then I'm going to get back to the gas sooner. So even if I don't have the ideal entry, even if I have it kind of forestalled, taking every bit of speed all the way I could to the apex, I'm going to get on it quicker and drive past them on the way out. I would much rather kind of wait around on the way in and then take people on the way out. So I will wait behind traffic and just to idealize my rotation and early application of throttle, just so that I can beat them all the way out. Because it's so much harder to try to pass people going to the corner, because they're always focused on, trying to turn and brake and not necessarily see you in there. They call it dive bombing, but a lot of times there's plenty of times where a fast driver can take other folks on the way in. It's just like, I'm not sure they're going to see me in there. So a lot of times discretion is the better part of valor, and it'll kind of force me to do my stuff a little earlier, just so I can hopefully be more successful on the way out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've got one example that just pops into my head every single time when somebody says about dive bombing, and it just, you could see it. It was going down the straightaway to a nice right-hander at the end of the straightaway, and the guy wasn't able to keep up. And you could see him, and he just goes over to the inside. He's going to go into that turn, and he's going to make up for being passed on the straightaway. And you just see him go right off.
Straight through, right?
Yeah. It's like, you can't do it, dude. And you could just see it coming.
Yeah, and there's plenty of times where a faster person is absolutely able to pull off a dive bomb as long as both cars are playing the game.
Yeah.
There's also plenty of times in amateur endurance racing traffic where I get up in there, or even the point where you start turning like side by side with the person. They start an aggressive turning. You can see how much they're turning in. You're like, oh, they don't know I'm here at all. You just sort of,
yeah.
If you
I'll
left
back
yourself
off.
I always try to leave myself a little bit of margin, so I realize that's happening. I still have room, a little more brake or whatever that I can use to get back out of the way. I'm sorry, Bill.
Oh, no worries. It's just you gotta be careful, because sometimes even though you think somebody can see, they may not.
Right, and that's why I default to just trying to catch passes on the way out. Because this isn't sprint racing or anything like that. Am I going to pass this guy on this side of the corner or this side of the corner? It does not matter. Just do it safely. So that's my rationale for sort of always approaching and idealizing an early apex.
You mean you can wait when you're in an endurance race? You don't have to force it every single time?
Don't ask every person I've ever raced with, but I think patience in race traffic is pretty important, and it's something that I work to prioritize.
It also saves your car.
Yes, saves your money, saves your car. So, that's my approach. It's not everything I do on the racetrack is dictated by geometry. A lot of times it's dictated by my wallet. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, it's not necessary to use all of your brake pads on that one turn. You're allowed to use them over the course of the day or weekend, hopefully. So
exactly. Think what's a good turn that demonstrates like a pretty perfect geometric apex in your mind? What do you think? I think maybe like turn 3 at VIR, turn 1 at Road Atlanta. Those are all ones where you pretty much want to just hit it right on the geometric apex.
1 at Atlanta. If you figure it out, 12's not a bad example.
I knew you were coming to turn 12. So and at turn 5, there are plenty of turns that are.
You think it's good? It's just that wall.
I've seen so much carnage coming off of there.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, when your left side tires hit that outside curb coming out of turn 12 really hard, you're like, oh, I did it.
That's not the reaction I had, but okay.
Oh, yeah.
We had to go to the laundry that night. So I've been to HPDEs, and several times they've had these little orange cones at the apex. Now, they weren't exactly where I thought the apex should be, but they were there. But in a race, I don't think they do that. Is there any way that you could tell what the track thinks the apex is, or somewhere to?
I think, don't they, for a DE, don't they sometimes put the apex cones sort of late? So that
they
sort of force you to do a little bit later apexes because they view it as safer.
They seem to be later, or sometimes they're just maybe they got hit early, but they're not where I think a turn is.
Yeah. I know. I never rely on those cones either because I would assume somebody has already hit them for me, so
right.
I assume they're not in the right place. I usually just try to use discretion, and if I'm learning a new course, apex cones might be useful, but also I'm just going to try to feel my way around. If I try a turn that I think is going to be a geometric apex and it doesn't work right, or if I try one that I think needs a late apex and it doesn't work, next lap around I'm going to try it a little bit differently. So, I mean, because if you're learning a new track, it's unlikely that you're going to be in a competitive situation unless you're some sort of maniac like me. But yeah, so usually you've got time to work on it and learn your way around the corner, apex cones present or not. But I think HPDE groups tend to try to teach a later apex because you can exit the corner a lot safely. Some folks say it's faster, but I don't really buy that.
You got more room to exit, so you don't go.
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought your apex way around the back of the corner, so you're really not trying to move through a bunch of real estate on the way out. Your car's already oriented the right way by the time you're apexing, so it's not a big struggle to fight the car up off the corner. If you I think I watched some video of Schumacher driving a journalist around in a road car around Fiorano or somewhere that one of their test tracks. Uh-huh. He was just early apexing everywhere, and it looked like it was like, oh, he's not going to make that corner. He would just be and just so it's a little bit of work. It's a little bit of elbows up, but you can make an early apex work. You just have to know what you're getting into.
Right. I did notice when I was out at Laguna Seca earlier this year, they have an apex curb. It's a reddish orange color.
The red part, yeah.
That's actually pretty close to where I think the apexes should be, and I just never noticed that at any other tracks. I just didn't know if that was a build.
That's the Laguna Seca thing. I've never seen it anywhere else either. But it was. I mean, the one time I raced there, I was just pounding those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you, I kind of hit the first few. I was like, okay, these seem like they're in the right spot. So yeah, those are pretty useful.
If it's not off, it's not off by much. So
right.
All right. So I've got a turn. I've got my turn in point. I go around, I get into the inside, and I hit my apex. It's going to vary from turn to turn, but how do you go about thinking when to apply the gas? You know what I mean? Besides dyno.
Yeah, that's what happened. I guess it's just as you become a more and more experienced driver, you get a feel for what you're going to be able to get away with, where you can be sure-footed with your car that you know, or the car that you're learning. But I mean, it's just trial and error. If you start too early, the car's going to kind of wiggle and go out of control, and you're going to have to come out of the throttle, right?
Yep.
I mean, you're going to know if it's wrong. You're going to know. Hopefully, you're going to know. So that, I mean, it's trial and error. But I am always looking to get back on the throttle as soon as I can in the process of a corner, and ideally, the way I do it, it's before the apex. I want to be full throttle driving across that apex just to give myself a little bit more straightaway. And sometimes it sacrifices a little bit on entry, but not usually, because usually I'm faster than the goobers next to me coming in or out, no matter what's going on.
So I think I understand what you're saying, and I think it's going to lead to the next one. But let's go through a thought experiment. If I'm cornering and I'm using my 100% of my grip, right? Mm-hmm. I can't go onto the gas until I start to unwind my wheel.
Right. It's conditional. You can't just be braking like, I'm going to get back on it.
It's time to go.
Everything has to be working in concert and in proportion. Just as you get faster and faster at swapping from one thing or the other, or blending between turning and braking, turning and throttle, that sort of thing all becomes more fluid. As you're starting out, it's a whole lot tougher to be managing all that and shifting and everything. So that's another reason why people are just like, hey, just bring, the HPDE line, I think, is just to bring that apex way around the back. So it's the kind of last thing you got to do is you've done everything else. You've shifted, you've done your braking, you've got the car rotated. Now go ahead and ease on into this apex.
So the last point that I wanted to get to before we finish our apex topic for this week, or this episode, I guess, when you've got your apex target, wherever it may be, it could be right on the curbing, it could be early, it could be late, whatever it is.
Right, but you know where you're going, right?
You're hitting your target. It's not enough just to run over that spot on the track. You actually have to control the angle of the car on relative to the point.
Right. The apex is only significant in terms of the arc that it's a part of, right?
Right.
So if you're deviating from that arc, or your arc is your arc also the arc and the speed, right? Sorry, I'm ignoring the speed. So yeah, you could hit the perfect arc, but if you're going 20 miles an hour, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you have to force the car to stay on this arc with as much speed as you can manage. So
Right.
that's the big part of it. And ideally, when you're generating this arc, you want to make one motion as you go in, as you're braking and pulling out of the brakes, trail braking, or just coming off the brakes, and as you turn the wheel in. Ideally, you're setting the wheel for your entire corner. You come back around, you're exiting, you still got this one angle. That's idealized. I mean, you're going to fight it a little bit, but what you want to do is you want to be managing the car and the weight transfer well enough and consistently enough that you can do that every time. So hitting it in proportion to your skill is important. I mean, if all you can do, you and that car can do is 20 miles an hour around that corner hitting the apex, and that's the extent of your abilities, that may be it. But you want to maximize your speed while maintaining that arc. And ideally, as you apply the throttle exiting, you're only applying it one time. If you're having a stutter step or get back out of the gas, then that's not useful either. So ideally, you're doing a nice braking input, setting your arc, coming around to the apex. Hopefully, for me, getting on the throttle a little bit before the apex just to beat the other guys out of the corner. But holding that same arc and as you apply the throttle. I'm used to cars where it's an on-off switch like a Miata, so I'm jumping fully back on that gas the second I can. But you might have to feather into it or ease into it. But yeah, you want to commit to full throttle and stay on it. No stutter step. No pedal fest.
No flip.
That's right.
All right. So we disagree with Mr. Senna.
Yeah.
Or we're just not good enough.
Yeah, I was just thinking whatever he was doing was working, but yeah, we're not doing the same thing he did.
I think the problem we have, Ben, is that we're part of the human race, and he was not.
That's right.
So, all right, thank you, sir. So, thank you for listening to our podcast. Please subscribe at your favorite podcast source. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to cover, please let us know at our website, garageheroesandtraining.com, or on our email at garageheroesandtraining@gmail.com. And if you'd like to follow along and see what kind of trouble or mess we're making of things, you can see our Instagram or our Facebook page at Garage Heroes and Training or Garage Heroes IT at Facebook. And if you could give a rating and a review on your podcast app, of course, it would be greatly appreciated. We'd like to thank our guest for coming on and talking to us all about BMWs, and appreciate his time. And hopefully you guys learned a lot from him. So we appreciate Phil for coming on. And if you need anything for BMWs, Bimmerworld's one of the places we go to. And feel free to tell them we sent you, and you will save $0. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
So you have this great tool to put the bearing in the front wheel on the E36. If you could come up with a tool to take the wheel out of the rear, we'd be very happy with that.
There is one. It's it's like this U-shaped thing. It's kind of bulky, but yeah, there is one to pull it out.
Really?
Yeah.
Hold on. Where is it? I'll be there might be another order coming in, but don't tell Vicky.
Yeah, I can send you a link to it or something. So
yeah, that'd be good, because I've missed it. Because if believe me, with the amount of time we spent doing that, we would have saved money by buying a tool.
Oh my gosh, the proper tool is super key on that. That's for sure.
We kept buying all these bearing removers and hub removers, and then nothing fits. Yeah,
none of the stuff you can get from like an AutoZone or Advance or whatever, those rental tools, they like kind of work, but they just don't quite do it.
So I very rarely can defend myself in mechanical capacity versus Alan. But when Alan says, "Oh, they used the press wrong," the problem was that the CV joint won't fit through between the ways on our press. So I really didn't have a choice. It was hanging up in the air. So we did what we had to do, and then we broke it. But yeah, so.
And we broke it.
If you see any spare driver's side E36 control arms, just let us know. You've got an instant sale. So
I have a stash of those things actually. So.
well, if you've got spares, we've got a UPS code, and we will send you money.
I'll take a peek for those too. There's stuff always floating around. So
see, we actually just picked ours up. When did we get it? Was it June last year? That sounds about right. So we picked it up in June. It was an old AER car, and they were going up to an E46, and they were trying to get rid of it, and they listed it. It was fully sorted, everything, basically just put some oil and some gas in it and run it. And they sold it for like, if Vicky wasn't here. And I thought it was a tremendous deal. I'm like, sold. And we took it 3 weeks later to the track, and, we did the best we'd ever done. Took it to the next race, did the best we ever did until Alan turned the front wheel into a clover leaf and tore up the bearing. And then, the only problem we've ever had is that damn rear wheel bearing. But, if that's all we got, we're doing okay.
yeah, not too bad.
No.
Yeah.
So
Thank
we're
you.
happy. Hopefully we'll see you out on the track. That would be great.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Whenever we get back to that.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Oh, there's a lucky dog race coming up in Charlotte down your way. We'll be there. I don't know if you guys are thinking about doing it or not. It's in August, like the 15th or so.
I'd be open to that potentially if we are. It sounds like the weekend of the 24th at VIR. Might be.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't have the weekends straight. I know we have a Lemons race the weekend before and then a Lucky Dog race the weekend after. So
yeah, we got to get our new car built, which Cage is done, and moving forward on that.
Almost done.
Yeah, almost there.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank
Have
you.
a great day. Bye-bye.
You too.
All right.
Thanks, Phil.
No
Thanks.
problem. We're having a little technical difficulties. Please stand by. The other two are, the other three are slightly behind schedule.
All groovy.
Yeah. How you doing, sir? Oh, there's one.
I'm doing well. How are you?
We're doing okay. There's two. I have to give them a bunch of crap now.
Phil, I am grooving on that
course.
mustache.
Thank you.
You know what? You could have been grooving on the mustache when we were supposed to have started. If you start earlier next time.
Oh, well, no, I'm just waiting for the rest of the group to get on here. Oh, I need to go get a beer. Hold on.
Cats.
Amateurs. So, Bill, you
Cats.
need to put the link in the doc or something because you sent this link out like last week and like
It's
yeah.
in your calendar, and I can't send.
No, I don't have a real calendar, bro. Google Calendar doesn't work. I have 6 things right on top of each other right now on my Google Calendar. I could not find it.
You literally just clicked on it like 3 minutes ago.
I did?
You did.
I still have Angry Orchard in my
You just
fridge.
accepted it
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, 6 minutes ago.
Could
But
be Rabbit.
the problem is, if I put it into the doc, then it changes every time we dial in.
Yeah, so that's the other deal is you're not going to use the same doc again. We're going to do a new doc every time. That's the deal.
What are you doing?
Sold. I just bought them all. Totally loaded.
I'm gonna get my wife to start it like
How we
an
doing over
hour
there, Phil?
An hour before.
Yeah,
Doing
you need to get her
fantastic.
online talking to her about it like a half hour ahead of time. What are we looking at behind you there? A little 4-door situation.
Yeah, that's my
All right.
sedan.
All right. I like it.
Apparently, Ben Dawson knows you. He does some a segment on our podcast.
Yeah, I saw he's been on a couple times. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he said to say hi.
Awesome.
So
Oh no, Phil, you've listened to us before. Oh.
no, he said he saw.
Yeah.
He didn't say he listened. If he listened, he
Okay.
wouldn't be here.
All right, good. That was close.
We just want the downloads. We don't need to listen.
There's a difference?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, no, not from a financial perspective. We make the same amount.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
All right,
Vicky,
I'm here.
next week you start at 5:30 for 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it's only 5 after. I'm ready to go. I'm completely ready. And we're waiting on Jen.
Oh yeah, that's the reason.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. See? I was even putting in questions.
So I saw.
Nice.
I know.
So Phil, how did you get the short straw at your place and get stuck with us?
Oh, James is trying to push me to do some more stuff like this, I suppose. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Just get social, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, he made me do a video with him the other day, so that was a part of it, and we're gonna try to get involved and do some more stuff like that, so to take some of that load off of him.
I'm texting her.
I think your sister is more techno-Amish than you are,
Slightly.
which is sad.
Okay.
So we have.
Send it out to her again. I'll send it to her. Okay. I'm here.
Anyway, so we basically broke it down into like 2 or 3 sections. So one's kind of like you and your racing background and driving background and car predilections. Then the second one, we call it the usual suspects, and since it's Bimmerworld, you can do BMWs or you can do any cars you guys sell to, and it's kind of like
BMWs.
It's kind of like you're talking to somebody who's trying to get into racing and they're still in the what kind of car should I get?
Is he aware of our shtick? Are you aware of our shtick, Phil?
He tries
Maybe not.
Okay.
I didn't know we had a shtick.
We do have a shtick.
So another question for you: would you have done it a little bit differently and done HPDE stuff first before getting into racing?
I probably would have.
You
probably
definitely would
what I would have done was that I would have chosen the like we hopped into Lemons or whatever race circuit we would have gone to, and I probably would have gone and hung around for a while, but we went in flat out cold. We brought our stock, we brought our trailer and walked in, and this is how we're doing it. And
no, the first time we went there with U-Haul stuff.
Right. But what I'm saying is that we didn't go visit and learn and talk to people and learn a little bit before we got into it.
We didn't even learn how to drive a stick, some of us.
I know. Jennifer.
That's bold. That's very bold.
Yeah.
Bold, not smart. Bold.
Mm-hmm. So, but yes, so we are, I think in our earlier phases of our podcast is learn what not to do, learn from our mistakes.
That's us.
Sometimes we tell some very funny stories of what we learned, but then we also match up with our great successes. And okay, this worked for us. You
had a great success. Did I miss it?
Yes, we have. We have had great successes.
Where was it? Alan, did you see it?
Alan's always eating.
Alan's trying to find it.
So.
Second thing is I'll be doing a lot of hand signs, like that'll be for Vicky, that'll be for Alan, and that'll be for Jennifer. And this will be for
Which
like.
one did you say was for me?
This one, Jen. I meant, yeah. But Vicky's been having trouble.
It's a loser with a curve.
Yeah, it's a curve for the loser. But Vicky's been having trouble with her microphone, so sometimes she gets like a
robot.
A big robot that screeches a lot. So I'll be doing this when she does that. So we haven't figured out what it is yet. So no IT people on our side. So.
Yeah, you sound like Satan again.
Yeah. Welcome to my world. I mean.
Yes. Hello.
I didn't even do anything wrong this time. There comes Satan.
I may need a new mic.
How long do these normally last?
The record is a little over 3 hours. Usually it's like an hour and a half.
Okay.
So it's if you get tired of us, just give us a thumbs down and we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, get out of here.
There we go.
There you go.
I'm from New Jersey. I understand that communication. That's like saying hi in the morning. I think Vicky's adding another question. Is it how to get off the rear hub? Is that what your question is on an E36?
I already got that off. I got that off.
No, you didn't.
pain is what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They fall right out. I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, one did. The other one, not so
Burning
much.
pod.
All right. Goodbye. All right.